There is a watch that went to the moon, literally strapped to the wrist of a human being hurtling through the vacuum of space, timing a burn sequence that determined whether those astronauts came home. That is the legend. And legends carry weight. The Omega Speedmaster Professional earned its mythology in the most demanding laboratory that has ever existed. The one with no atmosphere, no rescue, and no margin for error. 6 moon landings, the same watch every time. That is engineering credibility that no marketing campaign could manufacture. But here in the lab, we ask a question before any icon earns its permanent place on the wrist. Does the legend live in a watch, or does it live in the story? Because those are 2 different answers, and they are 2 very different decisions. Therefore, the experiment begins. The Omega Speedmaster Professional. The lab brought 2 prototypes to the bench for this experiment. 2 different philosophies, 2 different answers to the same question. The first candidate, a Philida ST19, a manual wind 3-register chronograph. It beats at the same frequency as the Icon's caliber 3861. Sole first engineering. The second candidate, a Homage custom, built to the Watch Collection Lab specifications. Case geometry that lands within a fraction of a millimeter of the original Speedmaster architecture. The Watch Collection Lab name on the dial. Body first architecture. The lab ran both candidates through a full pre-purchase scorecard before either watch arrived. The second, the result stopped the lab cold. A perfect dead heat. Both candidates scored identically across all 10 categories. That told the lab something important before a single wrist time minute had been logged. This experiment was going to reveal something the scorecard could not predict. Therefore, both watches shipped. Therefore, both went on the wrist. And therefore, the data got to speak. Now, I don't know if you've seen this in my other videos, but I made a promise to myself a long time ago. I would earn the right to wear something worth wearing. That promise held for years. No watches, just the work. I actually went to a real estate convention in Cocoa Beach, Florida, where I was being honored for being a top producer at the company. And I found myself over at the Kennedy Space Center with my family. And I walked into the Omega exhibit inside the building. The Speedmaster is right there, under glass. The actual tool. I felt something standing in that room that I was completely unprepared for. An itch. A specific personnel, completely understandable itch that every collector knows. The one that does not go away until you do something about it. I went home and I went down the rabbit hole. Every algorithm, every forum, every AI pointed me to the same answer, that this was the one. This is your watch. But here's the thing. I had made a promise to myself when I was a teenager, and I kept it. Therefore, I was committed to what the icon costs in time, research, and intention. I bought a $30 Timex on Amazon and wore it every day for a couple of weeks, just to answer one question. Can I even wear a watch? The answer opened a door I did not expect. That Timex told me I could wear a watch. It also told me a single watch was never going to be the answer. A blue dial looks great in the display case, but a blue dial does not go with everything. Therefore, I needed a collection. And therefore, I asked every resource I had what the foundational icons of a serious watch collecting looked like. The Speedmaster was on every list. Therefore, the lab was born, and the Moon Watch was the first icon on the docket. The question the lab brought to this experiment was precise. If I wear a chronograph prototype day after day on the wrist, living my actual life with it, will the Speedmaster reveal itself as the watch that belongs in the collection permanently? The Philida arrived first. Manual wind movement. 3 registers on the dial, beating at the icon's native frequency. The Homage arrived second. Custom dial. Our own branding. Mecha quartz movement. case geometry engineered to shadow the Speedmaster's dimension almost exactly. Both went through the bench process. Both went on the wrist. Both started accumulating real data. And real data has a way of telling you the truth, whether you're expecting it or not. The Phileta movement boots at the same frequency as the caliber 3861. That is a heartbeat of the icon, and wearing it on your wrist every day is the closest thing you can do to understanding what the Speedmaster feels like in motion without owning the original. The weight communicates substance. It reads a tool watch in the truest sense, present, purposeful, grounded on the wrist. Here is what the experiment revealed about the dial layout. The 3 registers share the same positions as the icon. Small seconds at 9, 30-minute counter at the 3 o'clock. The 3rd register at 6? But the icon's 3rd register is a 12-hour elapsed chronograph counter dedicated to timing, built for precision measurement. The Phileta's 3rd register serves a different function. Same address on the dial, but different mission entirely. That is a discovery worth sharing with every viewer considering a chronograph prototype. The archetype reads correctly at a glance. Understanding what each register actually measures is what separates a casual purchase from an informed one. The manual wind ritual is where the Phileta reveals its deepest character. Crown out, careful rotations, crown back in. For collectors who find meaning in that daily connection to the mechanics, the intentional, almost meditative act of preparing the watch, this is the entire point of the Speedmaster. That ritual has centuries of horological romance behind it, and the Phileta delivers it faithfully. What the wrist time data revealed for this particular wrist, the freedom to wind a watch, even though you haven't worn it for days, and then put it on your wrist knowing that the rotor is going to automatically wind it to the top of where it could have the maximum amount of power. There's a freedom behind that. The stress that comes with manually winding a watch, especially one as expensive as a Speedmaster, worried that you might end up breaking it, that's something that I didn't expect to happen in this experiment. And that was one of the most valuable things this experiment produced for me. It means every future icon decision is now pointed in exactly the right direction. Now the Courget, totally different story. Because it's a quartz drive, and because it had my logo on it, the case geometry that lands almost exactly in the icon's dimensions. Pick it up, put it on. The Mecha Quartz is running. No winding required, no ritual, no hesitation. The wrist feel is immediate. The geometry tells the Speedmaster story from the first moment it hits the wrist. Here is what the experiment revealed about chronograph hand reality. Every advertisement you've ever seen of the Speedmaster shows the central chronograph hand sweeping elegantly across the dial. But in daily life, the life where the watch is actually on your wrist, the chronograph hand is just sitting there blocking the logo that you paid so much money for. That is the version of the watch you actually look at hundreds of times a day. The lab learned a principle here that will inform every future custom chronograph build. Follow the icon's design architecture precisely. Account for where the chronograph hands live when the watch is living its real life on your wrist. The emotional pulse reading on the Courget is strong. It earns a place on the wrist. It earns wrist time. Both prototypes entered the experiment in a dead heat. The wrist time data moved them. The Phileta delivered something irreplaceable. It gave the wrist a lived experience of the icon's native frequency, the actual feeling of what the Speedmaster's movement does in motion day after day. That knowledge the lab will carry into every future chronograph decision. The experiment confirmed that a manual wind movement and that this wrist are a specific kind of relationship. Intentional, romantic, correct for certain collectors and certain lives, but the wrist time data pointed clearly toward and automatic movement for my collection. The Courgette delivered something equally valuable. It confirmed the Speedmaster's geometry is genuinely compelling on the wrist. The dimensions work. The daily carry works. The design language of the icon is worth pursuing, just with the movement architecture that matches how this life actually runs. Here is what the full experiment revealed about the icon itself. The Speedmaster has a longer history than the moon. It started on a racetrack. The car would build this tool before NASA ever asked to borrow it. The higher frequency movement, one engineered to measure a racing line to 1/10 of a second, may be the Speedmaster's architecture that truly belongs in this collection. The El Primero conversation is coming. There is a whole chapter of this story that chronographs belong to for reasons that have nothing to do with space exploration. That episode is coming too. But today, this experiment answered every question that is designed to answer. The wrist time data is clear. The prototype experiment was a complete success. The promise I made to myself, to earn the right to wear something worth wearing, turned out to be pointing somewhere deeper than I realized, towards patience and discernment, toward the kind of joy that comes from knowing exactly why something belongs in your life before you commit to it. That is what this channel is built on. Every prototype is an act of stewardship over your own collection. Every experiment is a win because every experiment produces truth, and truth is what builds a legacy. Until next time, thanks for watching.
Watch Collection Lab. Watch Collection Lab. Watch Collection Lab. Watch Collection Lab.